Welcome to the Odds Breakers, number one place for shared sharp betting information.
Welcome back to the Odds Breakers, playing the odds NASCAR style and oval experience. I am your host, Paul Napier, and you can connect with me on Twitter at NASCAR Style Odds. This episode is being sponsored by 5dimes.eu. For a reduced juice bonus, please visit theoddsbreakers.com/5dimes and click on the banner to get better lines than the average sports books. This week we have a great show for you with info you need to know before making picks. This is episode 12 of the Oval Experience. Each week we will go into last week's race, track facts, maybe some history, trends, and what to look for before placing bets for this week's race. Well, we've got Phoenix in the rearview mirror, and we're heading to the final at Homestead. But before we go to Homestead, I just would like to make a few comments on the Phoenix race. Phoenix, well, in a word or two, well, actually I can combine this. It was a shit show. I believe 8 cars on the lead lap finished the race. It just was not anything what the next to last race should really be, leading up to, the finale at Homestead. What I think needs to happen with NASCAR is they need to take a serious look at the downforce package on these, racetracks that are a mile or less. The racing was boring at Phoenix. The racing was boring at Martinsville, Richmond. Even a track like Dover might gain some advantages to having less downforce. These cars are punching such big holes in the air, and when these guys get behind each other with that great big spoiler, nobody can pass. It puts a premium on track position. Tires mean nothing. So NASCAR in the off-season really needs to take a look at what is going on with these cars on these short tracks. Short tracks became the in thing a couple years ago, as I said a couple episodes back. But now, what we're seeing is, they're being ruined by this package. So what they should do is, look to just, cut that spoiler off. I know that sounds awfully easy, and in fact, I was listening to the Dale Jr. download, and he even mentions that as well. If NASCAR doesn't do something with that, and remember, keep in mind, this race at Phoenix, this is where the finale is going to be next year. This does not make me excited, like I am for this week's race at Miami, where, it is a little bit of aero dependency, but, this track that we're going to has 4 lanes. There'll be guys ripping the top, there's 2 lanes in the middle and then on the bottom. Plus the tires wear out. It's an abrasive racetrack. Phoenix just does not have that for whatever reason. Like I said, I think it is due in large part to this package. Really, I don't have much to report on about Phoenix other than something needs to be done to be fixed before they go back next year in the spring. I'm not seeing or reading or hearing anything that NASCAR is even looking at doing this. Come on, NASCAR, you fixed the issue with the 1.5 miles, and now you've ruined the mile and less racetracks. So I think from a fan standpoint, they've taken a good, strong look at this and fix it. So on to Miami. So this is it. This is the last race of the year, and the Final Four, which I was one driver off. Or if you're living under a rock, you don't know this, but the Final Four are Martin Truex Jr., Kevin Harvick, Denny Hamlin, and Kyle Busch. Now, if you read the article for this week's race at the Odds Breakers, you see that I threw some serious shade on Kyle Busch. He's the only driver of the Final Four who has not won a race in the final 10 races. And really, I think the only reason that he made it all the way to Homestead was he had such a huge lead due to stage wins, his race wins over the first 20 or so races, plus he was the regular season champion, which garnered him another 15 additional points, which carries that through to all three stages of the playoffs. So really, I mean, if he didn't make it, there would have been something really wrong. I mean, he would have had to DNF, 2 races in a row or something like that for that to happen. So it comes down to, what is it that's going to happen with these final 4 drivers? And this week, I have always just stayed away from it as far as a handicapping process. It's, there's going to be 40 cars out there, but really there's only 4 that truly have anything to race for. I don't like to pick anything outside of the top 4 unless you can find maybe something with Kyle Larson. But even then, I mean, these guys have been in the past 6 years, the guys outside of the top 4 have been very respectful towards those top 4 drivers, because let's face it, you don't want to be that guy that goes out there and causes a wreck for one of those guys in the top 4, or screw something up. You can just imagine what that would be like. Let's see here. This week I'm looking at only, like I said, the 4 drivers that are in the top 4 drivers. So let's look at how those top 4 drivers have fared at the Miami Speedway. First up, in the last 2 races, Martin Truex Jr. has the best stats there, a win and a second place, followed by Kyle Busch. He has a second and a fourth. Kevin Harvick has a third and a fourth, and Denny Hamlin has a ninth and a 12th. But also think about this. I believe if you went back and looked, Hamlin's not in that top 4 at any of the last 2 races. So a little bit uncharted territory for Denny Hamlin. So let's look at the average finish of the last 6 Cup races with those final 4 guys. And in there, at number 1 is Denny Hamlin with an average of 7 with 2 wins. Harvick is next with an average of 7.17 with a win. Martin Truex Jr. has an average finish of 7.83 with a win. And coming in fourth is Kyle Busch with a pretty strong average of 8.5, but no wins. So, it's, like I said, I also look back, and I tweeted about this earlier. This race is very similar, not very similar, it is similar to Vegas. Vegas, again, 1.5-mile racetrack with an abrasive surface with multiple grooves. So aero dependency does not come into play as much. So if you look back at the playoff race that was ran there in September, Martin Truex Jr. was your race winner, followed by Kevin Harvick. And then you have to look clear back to 15th and 19th, respectively, of Kyle Busch and Denny Hamlin. So I just, with everything that is there, I know Kyle Busch finished second last week, and I know the guy is good. But that 18 Toyota just seems to have been off all of these past 9 races. And I don't see that being made up here this week. My championship pick is Martin Truex Jr. I think he goes for his second championship here in the last 3 years. So having said that, and having with all that information this week, and if you can also look at this information, the same information is out at theoddsbreakers.com. You can check this out. But here are my 3 picks for this week in head-to-head matchups. I'm going back to it. I like Martin Truex at -115 over Kyle Busch, and that's a 3-unit wager. I also like Harvick at +105 over Kyle Busch, and that's a 2-unit wager. Finally, I like Denny Hamlin at +105 over Kyle Busch at a 3-unit wager. Like I said earlier, my championship 4 was actually Harvick, Larson, Hamlin, and Truex. And I picked that at the beginning of this 10-race stretch. So for me, I mean, to get everybody but but Larson in there, I feel pretty happy about that. This is one of the better years I've had to get 3 of the 4 final guys in there. So just a little, just wanted to throw that in there as well. So one last thing before I close, I don't know, you may have seen this, you may not have, but if you didn't, go over and check out my new website, playingtheoddsnascarstyle.com. And you can click on subscribe and subscribe to my website there as well. Want more free info and picks for this week's race? Visit theoddsbreakers.com and click on the link for this week's race. If you like what you heard, shoot me a message on Twitter at NASCAR Style Odds. Thank you for subscribing, downloading, and listening to Playing the Odds NASCAR Style. Normally I say until next week, keep researching, keep winning, and have fun. But not this week. This is it. It's been a good ride in 2019.